In every kingdom, in every age, there were those who ruled and those who were ruled. Yet the most cunning rulers did not use armies. They used the mind. My name is Niccolò Machiavelli, and I have studied the anatomy of power longer than most have dared to question it. Tonight, I shall reveal the single brain hack that not only multiplies your intelligence, but makes you impossible to control. But first, I must ask you, are you truly thinking for yourself, or merely echoing the thoughts designed for you? You believe you are free. You believe your thoughts are your own. Yet every word you speak, every belief you defend, every dream you chase, was planted by schools, by screens, by masters of suggestion who have made obedience look like choice. The problem is not ignorance, it's programming. And the brain hack I will reveal is not a trick, it's the method to erase the code and rewrite it with power. The greatest illusion of this age, and every age before it, is the illusion of intelligence. The world is overflowing with men who appear wise, yet think in borrowed words. They read endlessly, quote endlessly, repeat endlessly, yet create nothing. They are like mirrors reflecting the light of others, never realizing they possess no flame of their own. You see, most minds today do not think. They remember. They repeat lessons spoon-fed by systems that were never built to free them, but to format them. They carry degrees, titles, and honors, yet tremble when faced with an original question. Their intellect is not sharp, it is obedient. And obedience, my friend, is the enemy of true intelligence. When I studied rulers, I found that kings did not fear armies. They feared thinkers. For one thinking man is worth 1,000 trained followers. The state, the church, the marketplace, each builds a system not to awaken minds, but to domesticate them. To make you clever enough to serve, but never dangerous enough to rule. Look around you. Every opinion you hold, every truth you defend, was planted. You were taught what to think, but never how to think. You were given information, not insight. You were told what is right, not how to question it. And so, the illusion continues. An empire built not on power, but on programming. The modern man believes he is enlightened because he can recite what others have discovered. He confuses knowledge with wisdom and connection with understanding. But the wise man, the rare one, knows that knowledge can be poison if swallowed without question. He does not accumulate facts like trophies. He dissects them like corpses, searching for their hidden organs of deception. True intelligence is not measured by how much you know, but by how deeply you doubt. The fool seeks certainty. The thinker thrives in the discomfort of not knowing. Doubt, you see, is the fire that forges clarity. The man who questions everything can never be controlled because he no longer reacts to the lies that shape the world. Observe how easily people can be led. One headline, one image, one phrase, and the crowd erupts in agreement, in outrage, in hysteria. They move not by thought but by trigger. The clever propagandist does not argue, he stimulates. He presses emotional buttons, and the crowd responds as predictably as trained animals. This is not intelligence, it is reaction disguised as awareness. The illusion of intelligence thrives on noise. The more data a man consumes, the more he feels informed. Yet his mind is like a library where no one ever reads, filled with dust and confusion. He scrolls endlessly but never sees. He hears everything but listens to nothing. His knowledge grows, yet his wisdom dies. You must understand this. Information is the new chain. Every empire controls minds not by restricting thought, but by flooding it. The more you consume, the less you comprehend. You are buried in the noise of endless facts, opinions, and distractions, and in that chaos, true understanding becomes impossible. The powerful no longer need to silence you. They only need to overload you. To break this illusion, one must first commit an act of rebellion, the refusal to accept every idea as truth. Stop being a collector of thoughts. Become a creator of perception. The brain hack begins here, not by addition but by subtraction. You do not need to learn more, you need to unlearn what was installed in you without permission. Every time you repeat something without questioning its origin, you surrender a piece of your sovereignty. Every time you defend an idea you did not test, you become a vessel for another's will. And every time you chase knowledge without purpose, You build a cage of your own curiosity. The rulers of thought know this well. They feed you information like sugar, sweet, addictive, and meaningless. They make you believe you are becoming smarter, while quietly programming the limits of what you dare to think. You are rewarded for agreement, punished for questioning, and trained to confuse repetition with truth. That is how the illusion sustains itself, through comfort disguised as intelligence. The true thinker does not seek validation. He does not join the chorus of conformity. He steps outside the circle of noise and watches how easily men dance to music they do not hear. He studies their beliefs like a scientist studies specimens, without emotion, without judgment, but with surgical curiosity. To become truly intelligent, you must destroy this illusion within yourself. You must strip away every borrowed belief, every unquestioned assumption, every phrase that feels safe because others repeat it. Only then will you begin to see, not what you have been told, but what is. The moment your mind stops obeying, it starts perceiving. The illusion of intelligence is a palace built on shifting sand. Its walls are made of consensus, its guards are fear and vanity, and its prisoners are the educated masses who believe they are free. But there is a door hidden in this palace, a way out. It opens the moment you ask the forbidden question, who benefits from what I believe? That is the first act of rebellion, the first fracture in the illusion. The moment when the slave of thought becomes the architect of his own mind. The mind of man is the finest prison ever built. It needs no iron bars, no chains, no guards. It requires only one thing, belief. Once belief is installed, the body obeys without question. The rulers of your age do not rule through fear of death, but through fear of difference. They no longer burn you for heresy, they simply convince you that truth is offensive. Control has evolved. In my time, kings used swords. In yours, they use screens. The battlefield is not the land, it is attention. The weapon is not the whip, it is distraction. Every thought you hold that comforts you has been purchased and placed inside you with surgical precision. You were raised to see obedience as morality and conformity as peace. That is how control becomes invisible, when it feels virtuous. The chains of the mind are woven from habits, fears, and identities. You are told who you are before you ever discover it for yourself. You are assigned roles, citizen, believer, consumer, and you spend your life performing them without ever questioning the stage. That is the brilliance of modern control. It does not command you, it convinces you to command yourself. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly thought something that was not expected of you? When was the last time you acted without seeking approval, applause, or belonging? If you cannot remember, then you have lived in a cage built from invisible bars. You have been trained to think safely, to feel within limits, to desire what others desire. That is not life. It is programming disguised as identity. The brain hack that frees you begins here, with awareness so sharp it cuts through illusion. You must look at your thoughts as a king looks upon his subjects, coldly, without attachment. You must ask each one, who sent you? Because every belief has a maker, and every conviction has an architect. The reversal of chains begins when you stop being the servant of your thoughts and become their ruler. The mind loves comfort. It calls it peace, but it is merely sedation. The moment you challenge comfort, the mind resists. It tells you to stay still, to stay safe, to stay asleep. Yet power never grows in safety. Every empire of the spirit is built through discomfort. The mind must be disciplined, forced to confront its own illusions, broken and reforged until it serves you, not them. Understand this, those who control society no longer need to suppress rebellion. They only need to distract it. They drown your potential in trivial pleasures. They sell you opinions pre-packaged with outrage. They flood you with so much information that your mind collapses under its own weight. You mistake noise for awareness and outrage for wisdom. And while you argue, they harvest your attention like farmers harvest crops. The true reversal of mental chains comes when you stop reacting. Reaction is slavery. Observation is power. When someone provokes you, and you remain still within yourself, you seize control of the exchange. You become the unmoved mover. You begin to see manipulation as a scientist sees a chemical reaction. Predictable, measurable, controllable. Every great manipulator understands one truth: emotion is leverage. They do not convince you, they move you, and they move you through the language of fear, belonging, and morality. They tell you who to love, who to hate, what to fear, and what to chase. They build a cage of should and should not, and then call it righteousness. To reverse the chains, you must no longer be moved by these signals. You must become the one who sends them. The world fears those who see clearly because they cannot be used. They cannot be bribed by approval, shamed by opinion, or seduced by comfort. The moment you stop needing validation, you become invisible to control. This is the most dangerous form of freedom, not political, but psychological. When you stop asking for permission to think, the system loses its grip. To become impossible to control, you must master detachment. Not coldness, not cruelty, but the calm of a commander who sees the entire battlefield while others fight blindly. Detachment is not distance. It is dominance over reaction. It is the art of observing every attempt to manipulate you and choosing your response with surgical precision. That is power. You cannot destroy the system that governs minds, but you can learn to walk through it untouched. You can see every command for what it is, a request disguised as law. You can watch the world burn with outrage while you study the fire and learn to command its heat. Once your emotions are no longer public property, you cease to be ruled. The reversal of mental chains does not come through violence or rebellion. It comes through perception. You will never be free by fighting the outer rulers while the inner tyrant still commands you. You must overthrow that ruler first. The one who obeys without question, who fears without evidence, who seeks comfort over clarity. That is the true revolution, the silent one, the one no authority can see or stop. Every thought you reclaim becomes a weapon. Every emotion you command becomes a shield. And every illusion you shatter becomes a piece of armor no power can pierce. The rulers of your age have mastered the science of suggestion, but you are about to master the art of awareness. Once you awaken to the architecture of control, the world can no longer script your mind. The chains begin to rust the moment you see them. And as you learn to pull one link at a time, to break one illusion after another, you begin to rise, not as a follower, not as a rebel, but as something far rarer, a sovereign mind that no power can cage, no belief can blind, and no master can command. There is a secret older than kingdoms, deeper than philosophy, and feared by every ruler who ever lived. It is the secret of mental alchemy, the art of transforming weakness into strength, pain into wisdom, and chaos into command. Those who master it do not wait for fortune to favor them, they bend misfortune into their instrument. Every man suffers, every man fears, every man is struck by failure, loss, or humiliation. But most men let these moments define them, not refine them. They drown in their own emotion, calling it fate. The alchemist of the mind, however, understands a darker truth. Emotion is not your enemy. It is raw power waiting to be transmuted. The masses think emotions are to be obeyed. When they are angry, they lash out. When afraid, they hide. When jealous, they destroy. They become slaves to their own chemistry, reacting like puppets pulled by invisible strings. But the thinker, the strategist, the sovereign mind, he does not react. He observes. He studies his feelings as a general studies the terrain before battle. He knows that the man who cannot master his emotions will always be mastered by someone who can. Fear, when properly refined, becomes foresight. It sharpens perception, forces you to calculate, to prepare, to anticipate what others ignore. The ignorant man lets fear paralyze him. The wise man lets it instruct him. He does not flee from it. He listens to its message, then turns it into strategy. That is the first law of mental alchemy. Every feeling carries information. Extract it. Use it. Pain, too, is a forge. The weak call it cruelty. The strong call it tuition. Every wound teaches you the nature of your limits. Every betrayal teaches you the anatomy of trust. Every loss teaches you the value of detachment. Most people seek comfort to escape pain, but the alchemist knows that comfort is decay in disguise. Growth requires friction. Evolution requires fire. The man who avoids suffering avoids transformation and therefore remains ordinary. Then comes anger, the most dangerous metal in the human mind. Left unchecked, it corrodes judgment and consumes the self. But when refined, anger becomes power, focused, disciplined, and cold. It becomes the energy that fuels revolution, invention, and ambition. The key is to distill it, not to drown in it. You must let anger burn through illusion, not through people. You must let it remind you where your boundaries were crossed, then build stronger walls around your peace. Desire, too, can enslave or liberate. Desire without direction is a chain. It drags you wherever the world commands. But desire shaped by intellect becomes vision. It drives you forward with purpose instead of hunger. The alchemist does not kill desire. He engineers it. He programs his own wants. He teaches his mind to crave what empowers him and to feel disgust for what weakens him. That is not repression. It is reprogramming. You see, mental alchemy is not about denying emotion. It is about mastering the circuitry through which emotion flows. It is about becoming the architect of your own chemistry. Every thought produces a reaction in your body. Every emotion changes your energy. Every focus shifts your destiny. Most people live as victims of this system. They let their biology dictate their fate. The master learns to dictate his biology through awareness, discipline, and deliberate thought. To become 10 times smarter, you must not collect more data. You must convert your emotions into information. When you are hurt, study the wound, not the pain. When you are angry, study the cause, not the target. When you are afraid, study what illusion makes you tremble. Every emotion hides a code, and once you learn to decode it, no manipulation can touch you. The world can provoke you, but it cannot move you. Understand this. Those who rule you already understand emotional alchemy, but they use it against you. They make you fear, so you obey. They make you angry, so you divide. They make you hopeful, so you wait. They manipulate your chemistry to harvest your behavior. The antidote to this control is not resistance, it is transformation. You must learn to use the same power they exploit. When you transmute fear into focus, they lose control. When you turn pain into progress, they lose leverage. When you convert doubt into curiosity, they lose entry to your mind. Emotional mastery is the highest form of rebellion. It is the science of turning poison into potion. It is what separates the strategist from the pawn. Mental alchemy demands one thing: awareness sharper than your impulses. Before you speak, you must observe. Before you act, you must calculate. Before you feel, you must understand. In that pause between reaction and response lies your throne. The ordinary man reacts, the Machiavellian man commands his reaction. That is how intelligence multiplies, not through knowledge, but through control. And once you command your emotions, others become transparent to you. Their anger reveals their weakness. Their fear reveals their attachment. Their desire reveals their direction. You begin to see the architecture of every conversation, every argument, every persuasion. What once felt like chaos now becomes a design, visible only to those who are detached enough to perceive it. This is why those who master themselves become untouchable. You can threaten their position, but not their peace. You can insult them, but not shake them. You can deny them comfort, but never control them. They have learned to feed on every emotion as energy, to rise through it instead of drowning beneath it. Mental alchemy is the invisible crown of the powerful. It is not taught in schools, for if it were, society would lose its slaves. It cannot be bought, for it is earned in silence and solitude. It begins the moment you decide that your mind will no longer be a battlefield, but a kingdom where every emotion serves its ruler. There comes a moment when a man who has mastered his own mind begins to see the invisible strings that move others. It is here that power ceases to be a dream and becomes a practice. Influence is not about words nor persuasion. It is the science of perception, the architecture of belief. And once you understand it, you no longer chase power. You create it. The crowd believes influence is noise, charisma, popularity, command. But true influence is silent. It does not shout, it whispers, it enters minds like smoke, unnoticed until the air itself belongs to you. The powerful do not convince people, they condition them. They shape the environment, not the argument. They understand that men are guided not by reason but by rhythm, by emotion, repetition, and the illusion of choice. The first law of influence is simple. People do not see reality, they see their interpretation of it. If you control their interpretation, you control their world. To do this, you must learn to speak in symbols, not sentences. Every human being is driven by ancient codes: status, fear, belonging, meaning. Words that touch these codes bypass logic entirely. They go straight into the bloodstream of obedience. Observe how rulers, prophets, and merchants all use the same art. They give people stories, not facts. They sell visions, not truth. For truth rarely moves men, but emotion shapes nations. The master of influence knows this. Logic is a weak blade. Emotion is a royal scepter. When you speak to reason, you awaken thought. When you speak to emotion, you awaken movement, and movement is the seed of power. But before you command others, you must first learn to disappear within your own influence. The greatest persuader is never seen as one. He speaks not as a manipulator, but as a mirror. He reflects what others already wish to believe. The people do not follow him, they follow themselves, but through his design. This is the highest form of control, to make others think your ideas are their own. Every society is governed through this invisible mechanism. Politicians manufacture enemies to unite their followers. Religions manufacture guilt to sustain devotion. Markets manufacture desire to fuel consumption. Influence is not corruption. It is the language of civilization itself. To reject it is to live in blindness. To master it is to rise above it. The second law of influence: never argue, always frame. An argument is a battle of egos, but a frame is a battlefield of perception. The wise never wrestle with fools. They redefine the stage so the fool fights shadows. If your opponent tries to drag you into reaction, step above the conversation. Define the meaning before they define the terms. Whoever defines the terms controls the truth, and truth itself is not a weapon, it is a tool that must be forged, shaped, and aimed. The skilled influencer does not lie, he edits reality. He chooses which pieces to illuminate and which to conceal. People do not want honesty. They crave coherence. Give them a story that feels right, and they will die defending it. The third law of influence: predict the emotional hunger of others. Every man hungers for something: recognition, purpose, superiority, love. The manipulator exploits this hunger. The master understands it. If you feed the hunger of others without letting them see your hand, they will call you their savior. Influence does not require dominance, it requires precision. A single phrase, spoken at the right moment, can move a mind more than a lifetime of persuasion. The art of influence also requires detachment. You must never fall in love with your own power, for the moment you seek validation, you become the servant of the crowd you command. Influence must remain cold, mathematical, strategic. You must study the emotions of others while remaining untouched by your own. Feel nothing, observe everything. The moment you react, you reveal weakness. The moment you reveal weakness, your spell breaks. Consider this. Most people think they choose what they love, what they buy, what they believe, but they are merely following suggestions placed in elegant disguise. The world is an arena of competing illusions. Every advertisement, every speech, every ideology fights for your focus. You are not free until you learn to see these illusions as patterns. Once you see the design, you can build your own. And when you do, when you master the rhythm of emotion, the architecture of belief, and the pulse of perception, you become a conductor of the human orchestra. You do not need to control every instrument. You only need to guide the melody. Influence is not about forcing the world to obey. It is about composing the song the world cannot stop following. The final law of influence is silence. The wise man speaks less and observes more. His words carry gravity because they are rare. His presence shapes the mood before he even speaks. People sense power not through volume, but through restraint. The louder one shouts, the weaker his control. But the one who watches, listens, and waits, that one commands every move on the board. To master influence is to see through illusion while crafting your own. It is to know that humanity does not crave truth. It craves meaning. And meaning can be sculpted. You need not manipulate the masses to enslave them. You only need to show them the mirror of their desire and let them worship the reflection. The true master of influence lives in the shadows between perception and power. He shapes emotion as a sculptor shapes marble, patiently, invisibly, until the world itself bends toward his intention. His mind does not chase dominance, it radiates it. His presence does not demand control, it creates it. And those who come near him feel something they cannot explain, a quiet authority that does not need to be declared, because it has already been decided you were born into a web of control. But you were also born with the blade to cut through it. Master your mind, and the world becomes your instrument. This is not just a brain hack, it is the beginning of sovereignty. I am Machiavelli, and this is how the mind becomes untouchable.